Hello again, welcome to this episode of the A2P Cast. This time we're talking about the streamlining of games. We were inspired by last week when we were talking about technological convergence, and once we wrapped up with that, we just kind of got off on a tangent and talked for like another hour about how a similar convergence is happening in video games. Games, I think, are, by and large, much easier than they ever have been. And there are a bunch of different things that I think are causing that are kind of going along in parallel to cause that to happen. So let's just kind of let's get into that. We have some examples, I think.
Oh yeah.
I think the one that kind of stands out for us is maybe Morrowind to Oblivion to Skyrim, right?
Yep. And then I just wanted to bring this one up. I just thought of it, was System Shock 2 to Bioshock Infinite is another great example.
Assassin's Creed to Assassin's Creed 2. All the franchises, really.
Because they're iterating in a way that kind of sees it as more of
And I don't know if there's a single franchise that chooses to go the other direction. Every franchise...
More difficult, more statty, more... Yeah.
Yeah. Every franchise that is faced with the decision of how do we improve upon this game, their reaction is to simplify the game.
Yeah.
To make it easier to do, to streamline it, to make it easier to play, more fun to play, more easy to kind of get through the experience.
Does that also make it more marketable?
It definitely makes it more marketable. I think it's a marketing decision as well as a game design decision, and that's where it's hard. This whole conversation is, I can't decide, and I don't think anyone could really decide if this is a good thing or a bad thing, because there are good things and there are bad things to streamlining games. Because mixing genres, you will get a more marketable product. You're diluting the original product. Or you're also improving the original product. Is it a dilution or an improvement?
Well, right, but let's just sort of define, what would you say mixing genres... Mixing, normally it's like an RPG with a third-person shooter.
It's bringing more active elements into games that were previously less active. Even Dragon Age, the first Dragon Age is essentially Knights of the Old Republic, and a fantasy element. You don't get to directly control almost any of your attacks.
It's all stat-based.
It's all completely. Yeah. You say go attack him, and then you watch your character go do it, and you observe how everything's happening. And then in the second one, they turned it into, it's an extreme example, and they just turned it into a hack and slash.
But you could almost see that evolution happening from KOTOR to Mass Effect 1.
Yeah, even from Mass Effect 1 on to the following Mass Effect.
Right, well, Mass Effect 2 was almost entirely just a third-person shooter with, like, a few RPG elements.
They strip out the things that make it cumbersome to people who don't want to deal with that kind of stuff, or even... Well, see, that's where it becomes. I say it, and even the words I choose put it in a negative light, but it isn't necessarily a bad thing, because sometimes things are too cumbersome, and you should have a more streamlined experience.
Well, the biggest thing we should talk about is the rise of narrative in games, and the essential, for streamlining a game, if you want someone to finish the end of the game so they can experience this great story,
you don't want them to get...
you don't want them
infuriated
to rage,
and give up.
Yeah, you don't want them to rage quit. You don't want them to say, screw this game. You want them to be engrossed in the story. And that comes at a cost. And sometimes the cost is difficulty of gameplay. Sometimes the cost is complexity of gameplay.
Yeah, even go back and play older games, and you run into the frustration really quickly of what happens when deaths are treated as a really serious matter. Oh, you died. In almost any game that comes out today, regardless of genre, death is not a big deal. It just means you have to try that spot again and do something a little differently.
A lot of games have
it's not, oh fuck, I just lost 40 minutes of gameplay. That idea of the constantly reshuffling, constantly moving respawn point, you're trailing this respawn point immediately behind you, so that if anything bad happens, don't worry. You're just going to go back to exactly what you were doing and try again. As opposed to, go back into even the early 2000s. Halo 1. Even if you die somewhere in the first Halo,
You're back to the checkpoint.
You're back to the checkpoint, and there are a total of 2 in the entire mission. Halo 4, you die, put you back 30 feet, try again. And it sounds like, even again, I have this, I'm incapable of saying it in a positive way, my tone of voice, my word choice. But I hate it when it makes you go back to the beginning of the game. I love that Halo 4 doesn't bother with that, because I have no interest in doing what I already did. I want to do this experience now, and I want to see the story that you have for me.
Well, I think this is an interesting segue into something you were telling me earlier this week, Mike, about the difference between System Shock 2 and the way that game saves.
Oh, yeah.
And even just like the first Bioshock, not even getting into Bioshock Infinite, how it's just the immediate, that, you're just there again.
Yeah.
Like it didn't even happen.
Yeah. Well, okay, so System Shock 2 had this really interesting way. Like, you go into a level, and it has, somewhere on the level is, I think it's called a bio-reconstruction chamber, or something like that. You have to switch it on, and it basically acts like the Vita chambers in Bioshock, where if you die, you get teleported back to this bio-reconstruction chamber, and you basically have, it's not like a save system, like you lose a little bit of money, and you have the same gear and the same ammo that you had when you died. But if you don't switch on that bio-reconstruction chamber before you die, you just get sent right back to the main menu, and you have to load a previous save. So if you haven't saved while you're in that that level, you have to go back who knows how long, until like last time you died. So the game felt very unforgiving in death, and like you need to find those things, you need to switch those things on. Bioshock, we talked about, like, you die, like, let's say you have a big battle with Big Daddy and you die, and then you get you go right back to the Vita chamber, you come out good as new, but the Big Daddy still has like a fourth of his health left, so it's more like a mop-up job at this point.
Yeah.
And Infinite kind of struck the perfect balance of like teleporting you back without it much of a big deal, but they also took money away from you, which was a kind of a punishment system that wasn't really found in Bioshock.
I think it's also neat that they worked the respawn system into the story itself.
Yeah, very.
You
very
would
clever.
like come through a tear basically.
Yeah.
When
yeah.
you respawn,
Mm-hmm.
so it's just another universe. So you could almost think of it as like your death actually happened in the story.
Yeah.
But it's no big deal.
Yeah.
In that it's really.
It is great.
Really,
But also, here's
really
another little example of what they did. It is Infinite, I think, that if you die in the same spot too many times, it starts giving you ammo.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Really?
Maybe I'm just that much still bad at Bioshock, and I'm still that much worse than you guys. If you can't get past a certain point, by the fourth time you respawn, you're given things.
The other thing that
More health, more ammo. Elizabeth just has things in her pockets. They just materialize to help you along since you're having trouble.
The thing that 1999 mode does that takes it up, kicks it up a notch even further is, okay, so you die, you come back, and you have money taken away. If you die and you don't have enough money to be taken away, then you get sent back to the main menu, and you have to, I think load from a previous save, but I'm not sure how that works because it's an autosave system. So it's a little bit more like where do you actually begin from 1999 mode?
Right.
But
well,
yeah,
it's like this actually just came to my mind. I believe Dead Space 2. I want to say Dead Space 2. I don't know the exact name of it, but whatever their like hardcore hardest mode is, you get 3 saves throughout the entire game, and you just have to know when you want to use them and do it in an intelligent way.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so you have to play it with just those 3 saves, and that's it.
So
if you use them up, you're done.
So you can't like overwrite the 3 saves. It's
Nope.
just one, then the second save, then the third save, and that is it.
Yep, that's it.
Wow.
That's really, and so I think this kind of should lead us into, there are games that sort of fill that niche market that still exists. There are still some people who say like, no, I really, really enjoy that grind, that kind of, just in it for the skill-based thing. Like, can I beat this thing?
Yeah. I mean, getting back to Mass Effect, they have that option of, turn off all the conversations, turn off a lot of the RPG elements, and just shoot. But if you still want that RPG experience, you can turn it back all back on. I think Mass Effect 3 did a good job of balancing the 1 with 2.
1 with 2, yeah, I absolutely agree. In the gameplay, I think the choice was good. The you have an inventory system,
Yes.
right?
I think you do, yeah.
Right.
You do.
Well, you can mod weapons.
You can mod weapons, yeah. You can find modifications to get.
But also the sort of action elements of the game were greatly improved over 2's as well.
Yeah.
And especially 1's. I mean, 1 has the worst gunplay and biotics by far.
Yeah.
But it has the best story.
Yeah.
But then and it's also the most, I think, RPG-like of the 3. I mean,
very
obviously.
Very much.
You have...
We forget that we used to be able to switch characters' armor. You can't do that anymore in the Mass Effect 2 or 3.
Right.
So 3 gives you a little bit more, but...
I don't
or does it only give you as much as 2?
I just think
you can do cosmetic changes on 2.
You can change their uniform. And that is it in 2, and I think you can.
No. 3 has armor.
You have different pieces of armor, and they do different things.
But I'm talking about like for your squad mates.
You could do that with 3.
Could you change their armor in squad?
I think so.
No,
I don't think so.
No, you can pick different outfits for them.
That's it. And that was the same thing with.
You can't really give them anything.
Yeah. So I mean, but yeah, like you used to be able to change out Garrus Vicarin's armor if you so desired. Now,
not that you could ever find Turian armor anywhere, but
yeah, that was
that happy day when you said medium Turian armor, great. Heavy Turian armor, great.
He can't wear it.
Why is this even in the game? Just to piss me off.
We could talk about the Metal Gear series and how that's advanced over time.
Oh yes.
When you say advanced. It's evolved. It's
evolved.
Lost its mind.
Okay, yeah, changed.
Not necessarily in a bad way.
A little bit lost its
objectively,
mind.
You can say it's lost its mind. Actually, I was thinking about Metal Gear, the first Metal Gear with the saves, because the first Metal Gear did have now that I'm thinking back to my childhood, first Metal Gear did have that code name rank it gave you at the end. And it judged how you did. And if you wanted to go hardcore into Metal Gear Solid, you needed to be hardcore. In order to get Fox, I do believe Fox is the highest ranking you can get. You can have never been seen. You can never die. You can never save. You basically have to play the game through in one sitting perfectly.
Good luck with that.
And that always it was kind of inspiring. I never did it, but it was interesting when you met someone who said, "Yeah, I got Fox." Of course, he was 11, so he was probably lying. My God, I just realized people were lying to me. But
Josh needs a moment now.
But yeah,
well, I think that's interesting. So contrast that with, I mean, I just watched some of the footage that came out of VGX about the Phantom Pain, or well, rather Ground Zeroes.
Yeah.
And it's like open world, freedom of choice, do what you want, buddy. And so it's not to say that it is totally eschewed skill elements, but it's...
My question is, can you fit stuff like that into the new genre, the new style that it's created?
I mean, some of them can. I mean, there will certainly be counters, like every time, because I mean, games count everything, and if I know Hideo, I mean, he's going to have
something.
Everything. How many times you were spotted, how many times you did this, how many times... Although, they're giving you that option now that when you're spotted, you can make it as if you've never been spotted. Well, it seems like it would be pretty easy to still make a distinction for the hardcore among us.
That's true. There's a mode now where once you're spotted, you have like a split-second reaction, and you have like a second to neutralize the target before it... And it goes into like slow motion and everything, too. Mm-hmm. So you have to, you can do it very carefully. And so sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But if it does work, then, you don't get the alert. But it's,
Yeah. The open world thing brings to mind, like, the Skyrim. Like you said, there are good things of streamlining games. If you were so bogged down in all the details and all the nitty-gritty stats in Skyrim, would you have time to just soak in this grand vista that lies before you?
Right.
Yes. Would you be able to be completely immersed?
I think and it's not. I don't know. I don't think I'm actually one to hold up the values of like really, really heavy skill-based games because I do enjoy narrative over that. But I think like in terms of RPGs, especially Elder Scrolls, I really like the stats. I really like the skills, and I don't think honestly I find that more immersive than not having it.
Yeah, I will agree with you. I will say that a lot of the thrill of Skyrim is working to get that one piece of armor or that one skill level up to 100.
Yeah.
That is a big motivating factor.
But I think that isn't like a blanket over everything that I play though. You know, that's good for RPGs, for games that are all about the customization.
Yeah.
Or you know, how I feel should be all about customization. Some games aren't, and I think those games I could, if I'm just playing something for the story, and it's not a sort of like choice-based thing, then maybe I'm not so worried about that. Maybe I just want to experience the story in an interesting way that doesn't have like a repetitive core mechanic or a skill-based element.
Yeah, I just quickly getting back to Metal Gear, I think Metal Gear really did strike that balance of like great story, especially 2. I played MGS2.
Yeah, 2. I think 2 really might be my. It's hard to pick a favorite in the series because they all have their own little things, but really, 2 is so good.
2 is so great.
And 2 is the one that I think, if maybe that's what you're getting at. 2 I think has the best. Maybe not even the best. Depends on what mood you're in. But from the mood I'm in right now, 2 has the best balance of that traditional Metal Gear gameplay amid the craziness of the story and the cutscenes. The cutscenes aren't quite 15 minutes average in length yet.
No.
And you still have the camera that is mostly a top-down camera. You can't control it. It's a fixed camera.
Yeah, it's very fixed.
So you've got the sneaking, you've got the...
Yeah, I think the
peculiar way you have to shoot and find people that really goes out the window when you start playing 3. But it gives it it makes it really still feel like Metal Gear. Mm-hmm. You can be a child again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just love the stealth mechanics of 2. I love, and it's a challenging game. That's what I was trying to drive at. It's a tough game. It was very difficult my first time through. But I wasn't what's the word, dissuaded from the game because it was so hard. I wanted to complete this challenge. I wanted to get past this room of baddies.
Right, well, sneak through them. Because even being challenging, it's never unfun.
Yeah, and that's always the tough thing, is how do you balance challenge? Because challenge can be good, but how do you balance challenge with not wanting them to rage quit? Like I feel like it's a very thin line. It's kind of like a two sides of the same coin.
In some way, I mean, this kind of brings us back around to the marketing thing we talked about, because that is an entirely separate skill. I mean, storytelling is a skill. Building 3D worlds is a skill. Designing something that is both challenging and fun is such an elusive idea.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And when you're faced with that decision, especially when you are going to put millions of dollars into making this game, and its success is something you're not sure you're really willing to gamble, and you're faced with the choice of, do I streamline it and make sure that everyone can have a good time with it, or do I try and surmount Everest and make something that is both challenging and fun? It's something that's so difficult to do and so easy to screw up. Even that one little extra enemy can make the difference between something that was a challenging but fulfilling experience and something that's just aggravating.
Yeah. Like if this sword was like 10% stronger, 10% weaker, like just the tiniest
little numbers and dial switches.
Well, I mean, if you just think about why do people pick one shooter over another? I mean, the core of the game is identical.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're playing a military shooter, you're a bunch of guys on teams shooting at each other for points. That's it. Nothing changes between that. But the thing that makes the difference, what makes people, Call of Duty players or Battlefield players or Army of Two players or I mean, name another franchise,
Medal of Honor.
Right, Medal of Honor.
All those players.
Yeah, all of them.
All 5 of them.
Yep, 5. Are there 5?
I thought 2.
I think
I was going to go less, but
okay.
But the thing that makes the difference there is, do the guns feel good to you? Does when I shoot you with a shotgun in the face, do I value that you die immediately because that's how shotguns work? Or do I value a game, like Gears of War, where maybe that's not the case, and that I don't
really
like.
thick skulls.
They have very thick skulls. The big armor is the big armor.
Yeah.
But it's a sort of it's a contrasting of values, and so you kind of have to determine where do we want to be, on that side of the question.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's some room for indie development to step in here because of the lack of huge risk. They're not spending millions and millions of dollars on any of this. It's just
they're making it for themselves.
Yeah, well, they're making it to sell it.
But they're making it.
They're just a couple of guys, and if they lose, it hurts a lot less than a big studio.
Yeah.
And they only have to convince themselves of what is good. You don't have to go into a meeting
and say,
with a bunch of people who aren't going to show up again until the game is done and try and convince them, no, I know that a streamlined game will make you a lot of money, but listen to this. I'm pretty sure I can do this well.
Yeah, that takes some convincing.
I mean, the game that I bought recently, and I know probably a lot of people have played this already, so they already know, but Super Meat Boy is very difficult, but it's also very fun. You die, it has this really, the levels are really, really small, so if you die like 60 times, it doesn't feel that way because you just it also helps that there's no load time between dying and starting at the beginning.
Yeah.
You just die and you're right there again. You die, you're right there again. Like, there's no, like you said, oh my god, I'm all the way back here. I have to start all the way here again. It's just like a go, go, go. But it never dilutes the gameplay into like being too easy. So I think that really strikes a perfect balance of challenge, fun, and those are the only two we talked about. Challenge and fun, yes.
Yeah. And so I think the kind of like the consensus I'm getting here, which is honestly not the one I expected to arrive at, is that really heavily skill-based games are great, and really heavily narrative-driven games that don't have too much skill are great, and that ones that strike a perfect balance are great.
So really, what we've proven is that some games are well made, and some games are great, and some games aren't great.
Games are great.
that games are great. It's not that all games are great. It's that games
all
that
games
are made well
could be great.
Right,
yes.
Right. It's not to say that there is one sort that should exist or.
And we should be happy that there are still games out there for the challenge hungry people. There are the Dark Souls. There's the 1999 mode.
Yeah, these things are still important. You need to still have these at the fringes. I think even think of any kind of art. The most experimental of all art, either the art at the fringe, is not always great, and it's not always something you want to consume more than once. But it needs to be there.
Oh yeah,
and you can't forget that it's there because it will still inform things. And I think it's good. It's surprising that we see Dark Souls, but it's really great that we still have something like that. Because as long as it's still slightly within our consciousness, we won't ever be in danger of losing. Not that I think we're in danger of games suddenly not being fun. Yeah, I believe enough in market forces. I'm not a big market forces guy, but I believe in market forces enough. Games will always be fun by definition, or they won't be a game.
But you're right. I think it's also a very balancing force. I think it's you have to have one to have the other, and it's important to have the difference.
Yeah, and I think we pointed this out before we actually started recording. Every game has a skill system. Every game has something that you need to get good at to progress, and I don't think we'll ever lose that, because if every game was just walk through completely untouched and with absolutely zero
that would be a movie.
Coincidence, that would be a movie.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you have to have some sort of challenge.
You have to have
skill element.
You have to put some amount of
even
control.
if that just means like picking up the controller and pressing the button. Like even if it's waiting for you, you have to do it. You
Yeah.
know, it's all about, it's the player choice. It's the interactivity.
And to be good at something and to have some form of consequence of being bad at it, I think will always be there. Question is how much will the balance, like how eschewed will the eschewed? What the fuck am I trying to say?
How will we strike the balance going forward?
Thank you.
Will the trend be to keep streamlining games, or will we kind of pull back and have a renaissance of stuff that's really, really challenging and skill-based?
Well, I'm sure we'll have peaks and valleys, and we'll just have to ride it as we go, and games will be fine. The bigger problem that we have is, can we emotionally deal with our favorite franchises going the direction we don't want them? That, I think, is the larger point here.
I think that's true. And I think this is discussion for another day, but I think the discussion we've already had as well is that sort of making predictions of the next Elder Scrolls, the next Fallout.
I'm sure they will be good games. Will they be the games we hope they are?
Will they be the games we deserve?
The game we deserve, but not the one we need right now.
Not the one we need, but the one we deserve. That's an emotional decision that I think we'll just have to play gamers for the rest of time.
Yes.
I think that's true.
Yes, very much so.
That's it for this episode of the A2P Cast. You can check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/alive2play. We're also on Twitter at alive2play. You can tweet us there. We will talk to you guys next time.